What's up, everybody? What's going on? How you guys doing? Come on in, come on in, come on in, guys. Come on in. Happy Thursday. Sit right there. Happy Thursdays. Happy Love Thursdays. Guys, you know this is my favorite time. You know this is my favorite day of the week is Love Thursdays. And I want to thank you guys for joining me on Love Thursdays. This is my 6th week of doing this YouTube thing. Like I stated earlier, there are going to be a lot of changes going on coming up very, very soon. I know I've been telling you guys this for the last couple of weeks, but it's going to happen, guys. And thank you very much for joining the show. And today's topic, guys, we're going to talk about what's real love. That's right, what's real love and what it entails as well. And of course, I'm not editing any of this. I'm not editing any of this stuff, guys. Okay? I'm just going to give you my take on what is real love. And before we get started, I just have to remind you guys, I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. I'm just a guy on YouTube who had life experiences, and I'm sharing it with you. Okay? So what is real love, guys? Well, there could be different interpretations of real love, but for me, I can just give you scenarios. That's all I can do is just give you guys scenarios, right? And let's just start back. For me, in the 70s, being a child, and the examples that I've seen personally in my life where I've seen good examples of what real love is. Because today's generation and today's people, not just young people, but older people as well, and people in their 40s, 50s, and people that are actually older than me. A lot of people, the whole dynamic and things have changed a lot in the last 15 to 20 years, right? And some things change a little bit for the better, but most of it, in my opinion, is for the worse. Because people don't really care to know what real love is, or they know what it is, but they just won't practice it. So what is real love? And let me go back to what I was saying. Let me just get back on topic. Let me bring it home. When I was growing up as a little kid in the 70s, okay, throughout the whole 70s, I was a little kid, right? I've seen so many examples of real love, not only from my parents, but from elders, grandparents, aunties and uncles, even neighbors. I've seen what real love is. Real love to me, with the examples that I've seen growing up in the 70s and as a teenager in the 80s, was when people actually cared about each other. And it didn't have to be a money thing. You didn't have to be 6'2" as a dude. You didn't have to have that perfect body as a woman. People showed their love when I was a kid growing up by doing the unspoken thing. Yes, they had arguments and yes, they had disagreements, but they would make up. Like, for example, I had a great grandmother, and she would get really mad at my Uncle Paul, when he would do certain things. But he knew how to sweeten the pot by buying her certain things from the grocery store. And keep in mind, my great grandmama come from the country, but she moved to Orlando, a city like Orlando. And she loved possum. Hey, she loved possum. So he would buy stuff for her. And you know how most of the time guys buy flowers and candies, you know, all that stuff, you know, the norm or whatever. He would buy little things for her. He would fry up some possum. He would clean up the house. He would do just little things like You know, at that time, Orlando, I mean, it still is, but it was big. He would bring home, it was like an type of oranges type of deal. He would pick oranges for my grandma, my great grandma, excuse me. And it was an unspoken thing. And by the end of that day, she was lovey-dovey, hugged all up under her. Now, my great grandfather Paul, at least from what I can see, he never was the type of guy who expressed and say, "I love you" and so forth. But he showed his love by his actions to her, if that makes any sense to you. And during that kind of generations, because we're talking about the early 1900s, where there were teenagers in the 1920s and so forth, people expressed their love different. They expressed their love by doing for one another, by actions. It wasn't just a word thing or word game, and they kept it together. Everybody did what they had to do back during those times, the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s. Everybody it was just an unspoken thing, guys. Survival was love that kept it together. Now, of course, in the late 50s or mid to late 50s, things have made a modern change, especially in the cities where, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure in the 40s they did the same thing, but it was more of a commercialized type of deal where men were learning how to express themselves to women and saying that I truly do love you, I want to be with you, here's the flowers and all this other stuff, right? And women would do the same thing. And in the 60s and 70s, especially in the 70s when I was growing up, if you got in an argument, because they used to have knockdown, drag out arguments where you used to hear, oh, that's such and such, Miss Davis down the street arguing with such and such again. And if the police was called, they settled it right then and there. And you would hear the woman laugh. And, you know, this was in all neighborhoods, even though this was a predominantly black neighborhood, and you see Miss Davis with the big afro and the big loopy earrings. I know, you know, come on. And you had the police come out there, and they were usually black police officer, and they would keep it together. Y'all get it together now. Y'all take a vacation, and y'all do this and that. And there was no fault divorces back then. No fault divorces. And no, I'm not editing any of this. And it started off as a survival thing, guys, believe it or not, in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And then it turned into something like, show me your love, especially in the late 60s. You know, we're going to listen to the psychologists, you know. Men don't express themselves as they need to, or show their feminine side and all this other stuff, right? So moving on in the 70s, it was just a whole different decade. It was the disco music. It was about dance, dressing up, looking nice, to a certain degree, looking flashy. And it just depends on what town or what city you're in, especially in a place like New York City. And love songs, especially in the 60s and 70s and 80s, was a big deal, guys, when it relationship. I was a part of the late 80s, mid to late 80s love songs. I kind of grew up the same age as Theo on Cosby Show. So if you want to know how old I am, it's the same age as that character Theo on the Cosby Show. So, you know, we had a lot of beautiful love songs, and the music genre was different back then. And see, during that time, guys, it was about getting to know that person. The vetting process that I told you guys about 3 or 4 weeks ago. it was totally different. It was how could I get to know this person and build with it. During my time, it's are you going to get a college degree? And if you are, what is it going to be in? You know, because we were teenagers. We knew the struggle. Excuse me. We knew the struggles, guys. Nobody had no money. You're 17, 18, 19, 20 years old. You know, nobody had no money. The pressure wasn't put on a young man that's 19 years old, having six figures, 6'4", you know, built like, you know, Sylvester Stallone and all this kind of foolishness. And you got to have this car and that car. No, we were kids. We were 16, 17, 18, 19 years old. Hell, we're going to have $150,000 a year. Hell, if you was making $50,000 in 1988, that's considered as $100,000 today, or probably even more. Hell, get on with that, you know? That foolishness today, you know? And it just was better to me in my generation. Look, I'm not putting out anybody or nothing. I'm just telling you what it was, what I grew up. And in the 70s, you know, it was even better because people were looking to mate with somebody they actually liked spending time with. And that's what the example that I was seeing. He works at the post office. He's with the union. He just started at another job where he can grow. Girl, even though he out there is a garbage man, he sure is cute. Man, that girl, she just got a job at, was it McKinney's shoe store? But that girl is fly. She is fine. And it was about, especially in the 70s and 80s, about how can we grow together. But the thing about the 80s was, what direction are you going? I like you. I'm attracted to you. That's what women would tell guys. But how can we grow together? How could you lead me to this next level? And it was based on what you was going to school to be. Ladies today, up to date, modern ladies today, it was like, where are you leading me to? Okay, you're going to be an engineer. What type of, a civil engineer? Wow, okay. Oh, you're going to be an attorney? Or, you know, they wanted to know, they already know you didn't have no money, fellas. But where are you taking my hand and guiding me to? That was the question back then. That was the generation I grew up in. And somewhere we lost our way. Because I got to tell you guys something, I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm not just picking on you ladies, and I'm especially talking to my fellas today. Even if you got it, guys, even if you're making $80,000 a year, $100,000 or whatever, if you got a woman that comes up to you and tell you got to make this X amount of dollars in order to be with her, you need to run from her. Say thank you very much. It's nice knowing you. You got to be rude. But I don't think this is going to work. And just be honest with him up front. Because that's not real love. Money is not real love. Yes, it's a good convenience to have. Getting a bag and all that kind of stuff. But when the shit hit the fan, where's that other person going to be? That's the question you got to ask yourself. You don't want somebody that's just banking on you already got it, and I'm gonna come in your life and just spend your money. No. But when you four tires flat on the ground and you have nothing there, Are you working your way up to something and that woman wants to be in your life? You got something good, something gold. Now, if the rug pulls from you, if you had that good job that's paying 60,000 to 100,000, realistically, if the rug is pulled from under you, and now you got to make 48,000 because you lost that job that was making 60 to 70,000, and she's saying, "Hey, we're gonna make it together." You need to keep that one because it's really hard out here, guys, and it's hard for you ladies too. But on the bad side, the women been sold a bag of bad goods. And a lot of women know from right from wrong, but they chose to go down that delusional path instead of working with the man. If you want all of these fine things, ladies, you got to work with that person. I know you can get it all by yourself and all that nonsense and stuff, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being independent to a certain degree. But money just brings out who the person that you already are. It's just a benefit of paying off bills. But let's say if you get in a situation where all your bills are paid, you got everything, every tangible item in this world, but you can't take with you, by the way, when you die. And let's say you got all the houses, everything you ever wanted, cars, jewelry, clothes, food. You set for the next 50 years of your life. And on top of that, you got 12 extra $1 million in the bank. And you with this guy right here. And when the rubber meets the road, when things settle down and get boring, are you gonna still love that person for who they are? There have been so many people that broke up during the pandemic who had money. A lot of was celebrities because their name is out in the open in the public and so forth. The reason why a lot of the celebrities broke up because, well, it was the it thing to do. They looked good together, and they realized that when it was tested, when they had to actually be in the same room and be on lockdown for months and months and months, they realized that they didn't really love each other. It was just a marriage of convenience. That was the real test. Now, these people got money. He got money, she got money. Yeah, if they came together, before that, before making, when they was making movies and so forth, but they only been with each other for a short time before they had to fly out and do other films and so forth to other countries and so forth. But when they had to stay together during the pandemic, a lot of those people went crazy. And they realized something. They realized that they didn't actually like that person, especially when they had to get to know that person. And not only just celebrities, just people in general. You got a lot of single married wives of football players and basketball players. And when their husbands are officially retired, they go through these no-fault divorces because they realize that they never really loved their husbands. Whereas you see in the parks this 90-year-old man with this 89-year-old woman, and they're holding hands, scraping to put their sons and daughters through college. And whatever trinkets he gave her back in the 1940s, She values it. Knowing that it wasn't expensive, but she still loved him. Could have paid $2 for the damn thing. But she values the fact that this came from his heart. He worked hard for that $12 trinket back in 1949. He's given her more expensive stuff since then. But it was that one moment in 1949 or 59 or whenever that she saw something in his eyes and in his heart. And she felt that real love. So that little trinket that he gave her for 20 or however much it was, and it was the love that went into that 12 or $20 piece that he gave her. He worked extra hours at the plant or whatever job he did. He put in overtime to give her that trinket. And that's what real love is. It wasn't so much as the cost of the Gucci and all that other bullshit. Bullshit. It was the love that was behind what he did when he bought her that $20 trinket. That's not worth nothing today, but it's worth a lot to her because she saw the love that was put behind it. She saw him, the value that this woman means so much to me that I'm going to put in the overtime to buy that $20 trinket. That's what real love is. That's what real love is. And when he dies at the age of 99 or 80 something or whatever the age he dies, and they've been together for 50, 60 years, 70 years, she's going to hold on to that trinket because she remembered that moment when he was so proud to give it to her because he put in the time to buy that when he was window shopping. That's what real love is. People think about all these damn Ferraris and Lambos and all these expensive jewelries and all this other foolishness. But I've seen examples of what real love is, and it's not this, boo-boo. It's not this, sir. I was fortunate enough to see that and hear elderly people confessing their love to each other, men confessing and women, and how they met in school and high school, and how I could just go on and on and on. And they remember moments, guys. Life is full of moments. But we're so caught up today in foolishness like money and cars and devaluable shit. She remembered the locket he bought her in 1949. And the love and sacrifice behind it. He remembers his wife passing away, how the love she put into the food when he came home from work every day. And her pleasure of wanting to please him. She would spend all day learning from the neighbors down the street how to cook this certain recipe. And when she saw the love, how the look on his face when he came home and enjoyed the food. And he appreciated, even though his wife passed away, the love she put behind the food that she made. And the love she did when she ran this bath water. That's real love, not this other bullshit. But what do I know, right? There's nothing wrong with having nice things, guys. Of course, you know that. But real love is moments that you spend with somebody. That's the point I'm trying to make. Not tangibles, men and women. but the moments that you spend together. And with that being said, guys, I want to thank you guys very, very much for viewing my overall emotional day, because this is just a topic I had to talk about. And remember that I got the fashion channel coming up very soon. It's in the works. Very excited about that. That's going to be my sister channel. And if you got any comments that you want to make, please make the comments in the comments section, or you can email me at timsondemand@gmail.com, timsondemand@gmail.com. I do read every email. And also, if this is the channel for you, please consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, and also hitting that notification. That way you'll know when new content is being presented. And also, one more thing, I'm not just Tim, but I'm Tim's On Demand. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Go ahead and let yourself out. Go ahead and open that door and make sure you pull it too. Don't let no critters or flies in here. And I want you guys to have a happy, good afternoon, good evening, and a good night. And I want you to think about it and marinate on what I said, okay? All right, guys, thank you very much. Until the next show, I want you to have a blessed day. Thank you.